Hello, I'm Gerard Fisher. Through ESAP, RAP is helping the electrical and electronic products sector collaborate and deliver better environmental performance for its products. Increasingly, companies are having to tackle a new threat to their business: resilience. To tackle this, they have to take a whole supply chain approach, and the circular economy is one way that they can help improve the resilience of their business. What this means for the electronics sector is they have an opportunity to adopt new models that increase customer satisfaction, increase profitability, and keep products in play for longer. Through ESAP, LG Electronics learnt about RAP's mission and has agreed to share some of the examples of learning it has from its markets in South Korea. I'm joined by Steve Beaman of LG Electronics, who's here today to share with us some of those examples. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, I'm Steve Beaman. I'm the General Service Manager for LG UK. I'm responsible for both the UK and Ireland. And additionally, I'm also a board member of AMDIA, the White Goods Trades Association in the UK, and REPIC, which is a producer compliance scheme for WE.
So how do retailers and brands work in South Korea?
Very closely together, so they work in harmony, not as two independent organisations. So the consumer sees the manufacturer as the lead should they have a problem with the product. But equally, from both a manufacturer's perspective and the retailer's perspective, it's crucial that they work very closely together to meet and exceed our customers' expectations. And certainly in South Korea, it works extremely well. Expectations of the customer, as I said, were very high. However, the partnership between retail and manufacturing is very strong. That means when a customer does buy a product, a washing machine, for example, then generally, either if the customer doesn't, the retailer will actually register that product. So we as a manufacturer actually know who's got that product. So when the customer phones us with a question on how to use this, or I think I have an issue, we immediately have that information, and it helps to us to deliver that service to the customer.
So if they have a household appliance and they do actually have a problem with the appliance, what approach do you take there?
Well, there's two types of service within Korea, and it is very much product dependent. There is both in-home repair, and there's also quite a high proportion of carry-in, because the propensity for walk-in centres or LG shops or repair centres are quite prevalent throughout Korea. But for the customer, the key thing is time, and the appointment to suit the customer, for whatever that reason may be. And so, for example, in LG, we deliver something approaching 57% of all visits completed on the first day.
Wow.
And on a carry-in perspective, a customer walks in with a mobile phone into one of our repair centres or into one of the walk-in centres, and then that 88% of those will be repaired within a couple of hours.
So just to clarify, the customer can get an appliance repaired in their home on the same day. How does that encourage them to repair rather than replace?
Generally, customers, whether they're in Korea or in the UK, don't want to replace that product. They just want it repaired as quickly as possible, or certainly at their convenience, and completely hassle-free. So again, delivering an efficient repair service is actually very key into that component part of a circular economy.
So how many routes to service do customers have in South Korea?
Essentially we have four, which is the web, the call centre, one of our walk-in centres or carry-in centre, and smart diagnosis.
So what do customers get from the web portal?
They can get everything from answers to FAQs, they can book a repair if necessary.
And so the call centre route, what does that offer to them?
About 80 to 85% of cases we already have that customer registered, either by the customer themselves or by the retailer who initially sold the product, which is great. That means we know exactly what product they got, or products, and we have that information readily to hand as soon as we answer the phone to their call, so it enables us to deliver that much better service to them.
And tell me more about the smart technology. What does that involve?
Smart technology, increasingly our product has this smart diagnosis, we call it, and that in effect can transmit back to our call centre data. The system interrogates that data, and you can come back then with what the probable problem is and suggestions on how to self-fix, or if an engineer is judged to be required, it assists the engineer in delivering the first-time completion by having the correct part when he goes out to the customer.
What does this service model mean for the South Korean economy?
The customer is spending their money on additional product or services, not necessarily a replacement market. Therefore, that's minimising unnecessary waste. And I think that's a key thing, as a benefit to the economy, both on a personal level and to a wider national level as well. LG as a company needs to provide a high skill level, both in the call centre, in our walk-in centres, and of course our field engineers. So we have in Korea a very large service academy where engineers can apply to go through quite an intensive training course, and this involves not just the technical skills but also, most importantly, the customer care skills. So when you walk into some of the classrooms there, you have to pass through what is in effect like almost a mock flat, and you as an engineer have to knock on the door correctly, introduce yourself before you even proceed into the rest of the classroom to start a day's technical training.
What does that service system bring in terms of benefits to LG?
Loyalty to the brand. If we meet and if we exceed those customers' expectations, keeping the product out there, make sure the customer's happy with the product, then the customer will buy other LG product. It is quite as simple as that.
So what barriers do you think there are to adopting a similar circular model in the UK?
Well, in my personal view, I think the biggest barrier and difference between South Korea and the UK is customer mindset. We do seem to buy here on price rather than on durability, and I think that's neither good for the customer, and neither do I think it's actually good for the retailer and the manufacturer in the longer term. We need to build the loyalty to the brand. The retailer will find it an easier sale if the customer's loyal to the brand.
So how do you think we change the market for services in the UK?
One of the barriers we have in making that change is, over time, both retailer and manufacturer have evolved their own customer communication methods and methodology independently of each other. And I think by working closer together, and ideally, if it's a brand such as LG, the retailers point the customer and they make use of the LG website, for example, to apply consistency, and also allow us then as a brand, as a manufacturer, to begin to deliver that service to that end user, but not only to that end user but also to deliver a better service for that retailer. So their customer is happy because they're happy with the brand and the service they're receiving, therefore they have a much happier customer as well.
So this sounds like it's a long way off from the UK market. What steps would you like to do to deliver the change here?
I believe the change has already begun. For example, within LG we already have 10 shopping shops. There's a collaborative venture spread throughout the UK with some of our retail partners, and I do believe that's just the beginning in enhancing that customer's journey and information in deciding which is the right product to buy.
And so finally, what benefits do you think ESAP brings to LG?
The benefits, I think, and the methodology are absolutely sound. It does require all the stakeholders within that life cycle journey, recyclers, retailers, the manufacturers, all to work together. And obviously that needs to be in conjunction with government as well. It's a whole wider collaborative effect to deliver the needs, the necessary needs of ESAP.
Thank you very much. Delivering better sustainability and resilience will require many players to collaborate in new and innovative ways. Through ESAP, RAP will use its expertise in collaboration to deliver this change and deliver changes that benefit both businesses and customers.